Enough is enough. They say choose our battles, but once somebody has chosen to battle us, we have now chosen our battle. Welcome to Alliance Against Communism, where people of traditional faith come together to defeat a common enemy. Communists have to destroy what is called the Four O's to implement communism: traditional custom, culture, habits, and ideas. We of AAC will use traditional custom, culture, habits, and ideas to destroy these godless bastards wherever they are. Moral subversion is done. Their time is up. It's time to fight back. Let's take the fight to them together. Join us today as we fight the good fight. If you are too afraid to tell the truth, they already won.
So one of the things I like to talk about, because I'm pretty educated in a lot of, all these gang cultures. I'm not really educated, but I have some education, may I say. I'm not going to say I'm an expert. But there's this one group, I want to talk about Black Identity Extremism. I don't know if you ever heard of that. But there's a few groups out there that, they're like these extreme tribal Black people, extremely tribal to the point where it's like scary, okay?
Afrocentric.
Yeah, it's scary. Like there's this group called the Black Hebrew Israelites. They are the most hateful, they're probably the most hateful group in America today. They are so hateful that they're literally you'll see them on the sidewalks, and they'll start just talking crap to white people, calling them racist, calling them, cracker, devil, every book, I want to rape your daughter. They seriously want to rape your daughter and do all these things.
Oh, I've read it.
They talk about all these things openly, and they have this belief that they're the real Jews and that white people stole their identity and they're the real Jews. And they call white people Edomites. They believe that they're like the ancient enemies of Israel, and they're the real Jews.
We have to say this, like two Jewish guys can kind of laugh about that.
Me and Eric are actually part Jewish, so it's just letting you put it out there. So if you want to call us white nationalists, just letting you know we do have Jewish blood in our veins.
I was gonna say are anti-Semitic. Like I have Yiddish blood, so don't go there.
Okay, so bottom line is, they get this, so Hitler, which is the head rabbi, supposedly Hitler's the grand rabbi. Hitler said something that Black people, that the original Black people were the Jewish people. He said something that's funny is that when Black people left, when Jews left Israel, they were Black, and when they came back, they were white. He made some kind of comment like that. So the Black people supposedly believe him, and they believe that they're the real Black Jews, and that the white Jews are just synagogue of Satan, and they have taken their identity. So supposedly Hitler is the grand rabbi, and Hitler knows everything about Jewish people, right?
Okay, so that goes to that soothsaying that you're referring to in tribalism.
So just to dispel the myth that Black people are the real Jews, Josephus was one of the Jewish historians at the time. And look him up how he looks like, because he was a Jewish person around that time, and you look up his sculpture, is the exact characteristic of Jewish people today. He's white. He has kind of like a crooked, a nose is a little bit curvy nose that Jewish people have. He has Jewish traits. And I'm not trying to be anti-Semitic. I'm just saying that Josephus has Jewish traits, and you could clearly see that Josephus is Caucasian. He's not Black. He's not a Black person. So the fact is that they're lying. They have nothing there. It's just a pure lie, and it's pure envy. They actually, Black people come from West Africa. So I like to remind them, the best thing you could do when you see a Black identity extremist like this is remind them that they're from West Africa, not Israel. They're from West Africa.
Right. Well, sub-Saharan Africa.
Yeah, sub-Saharan Africa. So I don't know where they get this from. Apparently they got it from Hitler, so that's where they got it from.
Well, creating their own history.
Yeah, they're trying to create their own history. So the problem with this Black identity extremism and this Black Hebrew Israelite movement is that they have envy towards the real Jewish people, which is scary. Okay, so envy is the most disgusting thing in the world. I think envy is the most evil trait in human beings that I could think of. So what envy is being jealous of what somebody else has, like a blessing that they have, and taking it a step further, not just being jealous, but actually going to want to deprive that person of that blessing and take that blessing for themselves. That's envy. So what you see these Black identity extremists doing, they call themselves the real Jews, and they're envious of the real Jews, and they're trying to steal their identity and put that blessing on themselves. and they're trying to deprive the real Jews of the blessing that they have from God. And that's where, so it's just pure envy. And you look at these Black identity Hebrew Israelites, that all they do is talk crap about white people because they're envious about white people. They just want to destroy white people because they're envious. It's just pure envy. It's just they're hiding behind a religion, and it's just envy behind it. That's all it is, envy. And there's a lot of envy going on against us. We have to be truthful. Like, for example, they talk about white privilege. Oh, you grew up in a good household and you have white privilege. You had a mother and father. I don't have a mother and father. You're privileged and you should feel guilty about it. And I'm so sick of that. I can't express to you how disgusted I am with that I have to feel guilty because my parents worked hard and made the right decisions, that I have to feel guilty because I have privilege because my parents made the right decisions and worked hard, and I made the right decisions and worked hard, and I have to feel guilty about it. So your parents made the wrong decisions, and supposedly you're envious against people like us because our parents made the right decisions. I mean, think about that for a second.
I find that crazy when you really think about it, due to the fact that they're living in the Western world. There's no better place for Black people to live than in the West. And they don't realize this. If they were to go back to sub-Saharan Africa, countries in South Africa, they would be on their hands and knees begging to come back to the West.
Exactly. So why they hate America so bad? And it's like, taking the knee and the Black National Anthem, all this crap. They hate the country because of this supposedly that, that Blacks people were enslaved and that we killed the Indians, supposedly. See, the problem is that history is more complicated than that. Than just saying, okay, white people killed the Indians. Absolutely. There was a lot of things going on. First of all, when white people came here, okay, there were tribes of Indians, and they were tribal, just like we're talking about tribalism today, right? What were these tribes doing? They were living in their tribes. They were killing each other, like going back and forth, just like tribalism in Europe, like tribalism anywhere.
They were fighting over hunting grounds. They were fighting over women. They were fighting over territory. They were not this peaceful people that they're depicted to be.
They weren't.
And if Europeans didn't conquer them, someone else was going to conquer them. Europeans came over here. Native Americans didn't even have the wheel.
I mean, and then you look at the Mayan culture, they were cannibalizing each other, sacrificing themselves on those temple things, sacrificing themselves, sacrificing human beings, cannibalistic stuff going on. There were some certain good Indian tribes that I understand. There were some nice ones, but there's good and bad tribes everywhere. So the bottom line is the American Indians didn't have like this paradise on earth. They were just a tribal situation where just like any tribe, killing each other, fighting each other, just like we're talking about, So the bottom line is, and in sub-Saharan Africa, they were tribal too.
They still are.
They still are tribal to these days.
Look at this is a whole separate topic, but do a little research onto what is going on in South Africa with white farmers. They are literally murdering in South Africa right now, the most dangerous job for someone to have is to be a white farmer. They are getting murdered every single day, raped and murdered. We could talk some horror stories about what these families have gone through because these people are so tribalistic, they believe that these lands are theirs and that they should be pushed out.
So the bottom line is there's a difference between a civilized person and a barbarian. Okay, a civilized person will treat others as you treat themselves. A civilized person is well bred. For example, they come from a good family. They have a good mother and father. They're educated. They restrain themselves. They have good manners. They have good education. This is a civilized person, right? Self-respect, treating other people nicely. But not everybody is civilized in America. Even in 2021, not everybody's civilized. We still have people that are barbaric. They have barbaric ways, and we just got to be honest about it. And the bottom line is we can't, just being soft on crime in barbaric areas in America is stupid. It's really stupid. You're never going to solve the problem. It's just going to get worse and worse and worse.
It just fuels the flames.
It just fuels the flames. Like, for example, I think the police should be have stronger presence in high crime areas. I mean, I want the police to be their hands not tied in high crime areas because I want those high crime areas contained.
Well, that makes the most sense. I mean, look at a firefighter. Do you want a firefighter near where the fire is starting or away from where the fire is starting?
Exactly. So they always talk about these stupid liberals and the ACL fuck you. They'll sue you if you do anything. Like if you try, you're violating their rights. I mean, you got a point where they're using the Constitution. They're abusing the Constitution. The Constitution was there to protect the people, right? To make the people so we can live in a peaceful and orderly society, right? I think that's the essence of the Constitution, right? To live in a free, peaceful, and orderly society. But yet they're using the Constitution to make you're trying to tie the hands of cops in bad areas. We want to contain those bad areas, man. I just don't understand. Like stop and frisk, for example, okay? In high crime, let's take the race out of it, okay? Let's take the race out of it. Stop and frisk. Let's say you have a high crime areas that has a lot of gun violence going on. What would be wrong with having stop and frisk in that area that's high gun violence going on? It doesn't matter what race it is, just whatever it is. I want stop and frisk to stop the gun violence in this area.
Well, yeah, because look at when Giuliani took over in New York when they implemented the stop and frisk. In some areas, crime went down 90%, and when they 90%, and when they brought it back, crime went right back to where it was.
So it worked. The bottom line is, people screamed and this was racist, but now the black community is worse off.
Well, technically, it is unconstitutional, but where we are in 2021 with the Biden regime, do we still have a constitution?
Well, okay, I believe in the Constitution. I'm a constitutionalist, like I said. But if you look at Roman history, there are times where they suspended rights, let's say to deal with an emergency, for example, like say a state of emergency.
Martial law.
Yeah, so I'm not talking about martial law because that's a little bit too far. But what if we go into these, like Chicago, for example, where we know that it's large gun violence going there. We know that making guns illegal doesn't work because Chicago guns are like the most illegal in the country, right? Yeah. It's got the highest gun violence in the country, one of the highest gun violence, right?
Well, look at how many drugs are illegal, and I could call somebody right now.
Exactly. So that doesn't work. But like, for example, let's just say have a high crime area that's high gun violence, have stop and frisk. So we're declaring a state of emergency in this high crime area because there's gun violence going on crazy. Let's do stop and frisk until the gun violence goes down. I understand that might violate the Constitution, okay, but it's an emergency situation. 60 to 70 people are being shot every weekend, okay? So I don't have a problem with police taking their hands off in high crime areas. Low crime areas is a different story, but if it's got statistically an extremely high crime rate in this area, let the police do their fucking job. You know what I'm saying? Give the police the powers to do their job and stop putting they're too afraid to do anything, especially to African Americans. They're afraid because they do one thing, they're gonna be in the media. You know what I'm saying? It's like, dude, it's got to be a point where you just got to let cops do their job.
Yeah.
To stop the point of the police is to maintain peace and order. That's what we want, peace and order in society.
Well, white people are far more likely to be shot unarmed by police than blacks anyway.
That's a statistical fact?
That's a statistical fact.
Wow. So that's...
Even though if you look at it, we as Caucasians, we outpopulate blacks 5-1 in this country. But if you look at crime statistics, that shouldn't be the case.
I have a quote from John Adams, okay? He said, Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. He wasn't the only founding father to hold this view. Indeed, James Madison wrote that our Constitution requires sufficient virtue among men for self-government. Otherwise, nothing less than the chains of despotism can restrain them from destroying and devouring one another. So that tells you right there, I mean, that the Constitution was created for a moral and religious people. It wasn't created for barbarians. And I'm not just saying is being interracial. Any type of barbaric culture, whether it's white, black, it doesn't matter. The Constitution was not made for barbaric culture. So if we have an extremely barbaric culture going on in one area, like we have like a high crime rate, people are just acting tribal. The Constitution is not made for those people. It wasn't intended for those types of people. You know what I'm saying? Just being honest.
Yeah, so we're attacking, again, more Marxism, nihilism.
So the bottom line is, to tie it back to Marxism, the bottom line is what I looked at today, and I'm just telling you this kind of from my experience, is that when I was younger, okay, we went to church every week, and we did the Pledge of Allegiance every day in school. And at the time, I believed that everything was decent in society. Society was decent at that time. Today, people stop going to church, and they hate the country because the country's racist. or because of what the country did to the Indians or whatever. They have some kind of excuse to hate the country. But you hate the country that you live in, but this is the best country in the world. No matter what you think. You could talk about communism, it's so good. But just in North Korea a few days ago, that fucking fat fuck Kim Jong-un, whatever the fuck his name is, killed people for listening to a fucking pop singer. Because it's South Korean. Literally just killed them for watching a fucking pop music, K-pop music. That's fucking crazy. Can you imagine that you watched a music video and the fucking fat fuck Kim Jong-un is going to come and kill you? That's where you want to live?
Yeah.
Dude.
I mean, universities are praising an ideology that killed hundreds of millions of people.
That's still killing millions of people. God, how many people are in prison camps in North Korea? God only knows.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, the bottom line is these Marxists are so evil. They want absolute power over you. See, the problem is what I learned is that if you hate the country, you turn against Christ, then the only thing that's left there is Marxism and immorality.
Nihilism.
And so that's what I'm saying. So in order to get back to a better place, we have to start loving the country we're in. I understand that we have Democrats and leftists in power, but we're 80%. We're the majority. I believe that conservatives are 80%. I believe, according to the statistics that I have.
Well, we've been the silent majority for far too long.
And these leftists are only, from what I understand, they're only 20%. And we're going to let this 20% dictate to us what America is? Yes. 20% of these motherfuckers?
Yeah, it's like that squeaky wheel gets the grease.
So fuck that. So the bottom line is we need to come back to our ways, come back to Christianity, come back to loving the country
Tradition.
Again. Just come back to tradition. And that kind of wraps up about tribalism. So the bottom line is basically tribalism, it can be good, it can be bad. But we as white people, because me and Eric are white, so of course we're going to talk about ourselves, is that we've become not tribal enough. So we've taken on moral universalism where we're coming to the point where we're not protecting what we should be protecting.
Which is us and our culture.
So what I'm trying to say is that like we can be like moral universalists. We can, okay? We can be tolerant. We can be nice to people, and we can, be just good with other people. Period. But when crimes start happening to us, like it's happening now, like major interracial violence that's happening against us, and we're being victimized constantly. And the news are saying that it's the other way around when it's actually the other way around. It's like we have to put a stop to that. That's it. If somebody does a crime to us, then we have to be able to at least speak the truth and see what this is going on. At the very least, be truthful what's going on. At the very least. But we got to stop this. Stop being. We have to judge people for how they treat us and accept the reality for what it is.
If you love America and you love the West, stand up for it.
Because if we go down, there ain't nothing left. Everything else is just barbaric, disgusting third world cultures that you do not want to live in, period.
If America falls, that's it for freedom.
That's it. And there's no place to go. This is it. The freedom is here. It stops here. Nobody's going to come and help us. There's no place to go. Freedom is here. Either we stand up for it or we don't. So that's what we have to say, and we appreciate you listening.
Thank you. Good night.